very warm welcome this evening. My name is David Patterson, and it's been my privilege, and I do mean that, it's been a real privilege to curate the exhibition which you see, already hopefully have seen, downstairs of Will Maclean's work. Tonight we're going to take a look at the themes running through the superb exhibition downstairs. Themes underlying the history of the Highlands of Scotland and Will's response to them, maritime history and seafaring, island clearances and hardship, the loss of Gaelic, exploration and immigration. Tonight we've invited three of Scotland's renowned traditional musicians to present a reflection of these themes through music, story, song and verse. Hopefully, you will get a flavour of these artworks, because writer and art critic Kevin Macleod has said of Will he is one of the outstanding artists of his generation. So tonight, on small pipes, whistles, tromb and Gaelic song is Allan MacDonald, one of the three legendary piping brothers from Gaelic, a master of his craft, deeply rooted in the Gaelic tradition and widely acknowledged for his superb compositions, for his tuition, research and determination to keep the Gaelic traditions alive. On fiddle is John Martin, who has performed worldwide with such influential and traditional bands as Ossian, Easy Club, Contraband and the Tannahill Weavers. On mandolin and cittern is Kevin Macleod, a relation of Will's, who shares a common heritage from Paul Bain. Kevin is a member of the acclaimed Scottish Gaelic band, the Occasionals. So, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Kevin, to John and Alan.
Thank you very much, David. The extraordinary story of St Kilda has long held a fascination for Will Maclean. The harsh conditions accepted by the society there over many centuries, the reliance on the seabirds for sustenance, and the extreme isolation has informed the artist's work for much of his career. Three memorable pieces in the exhibition below, Atlantic Messengers, echo the creation and the reliance on the St Kilda mill boats, simple boat-shaped carvings with attached bladder floats, Gaelic messages in a bottle. These were launched into the Atlantic Ocean to send messages, letters or requests for help to the Western Isles and beyond. Maclean has cast resin eggs into the artworks containing items that commemorate aspects of life on the very edge. A bird's skull and an oil sack recalls the fulmar. Another remembers an anchorite nun who, it was believed, sought white martyrdom and whose skeleton was found with a bird nesting in her breastbone. Wonderful complex imagery and visual storytelling. The acclaimed Scottish folk band, Ossian, of which our fiddler here, John Martin, was an integral part, recorded this lovely melody we're going to play you now on their 1978 album, The St Kilda Wedding, first of several hugely influential albums that the band subsequently made. I learned the tune from the record, and decades later I actually took my mandolin onto the stunning archipelago at St Kilda, and I played this tune on the unforgettable main street of the World Heritage Site. So we're going to play this St Kilda Wedding from it. MacLeod of Pulbane, stonemason, lobster fisherman and bard, was born in 1855 and brought up in Pulbane, one of the small townships on the Coire Peninsula on the northern shores of Loch Broom. His brother Murdoch was a mason and house builder who constructed the house Springwell in which Will Maclean's grandmother Mary Macleod was born, along with her youngest brother Hector, my grandfather. The bard wrote verse that reflected different aspects of the lives of the Gaelic people in his close-knit community. And these were learned, recited and sung at gatherings in a local Killie house. On Batwanya, the Green Boat, was a favourite and often sung, and it even entered into the travelling community's repertoire. Sometime in the 1950s, Will Maclean had the foresight to record some of his elders in Pulbane, including his father, Captain John Maclean, and in particular Johnny Alley and Abigail Mackenzie, singing some of the repertoire. Abigail's apron is one of the key works in the exhibition, which reflects and remembers the Clodley Highland folk. According to the artist recently, when Her Majesty the Queen once viewed the intricate work, she wryly commented, that's interesting, but it would take a lot of dusting. Which caused Will to be surprised that she seemed to like it and knew what dusting was. In 2005, my father, Roddy MacLeod, compiled all the known material by Neil MacLeod, the Pulbane bard, into a comprehensive account of his work before it was lost. Roddy was one of the last native Gaelic speakers, and this work would not now be possible. So it's a poignant reminder of another of the artist's deep-rooted themes, the loss of language. But this fine song reflects the deep-rooted maritime influences on the artist from his seafaring father, Captain John Maclean, and Will's maternal family in Skye, the Reeds of Kylacket, who were renowned ringnet fisherfolk. Roddy MacLeod says, Mbatawanya shows the huge part the sea played in the locals' lives, the sheer admiration for a fine boat, the rivalry existing between the crews, and the very unparochial interest in such nautical matters as the America's cup races and yachts. Many local men would have crewed these huge boats. I remember local men coming home wearing blue ganzis with the names of the famous yachts emblazoned on the fronts. Here too, Neil MacLeod reveals a particular traditional skill which poets of old had in describing a boat, which he could only have acquired by reading some classical Gaelic poetry. It finishes with the whimsical idea of the exuberant celebrations that would follow should Ali Ban Maclean come home in his cup. So Alan is going to sing an abridged version of Mbatawanya. It's quite long because Keeleys in the Highlands in the winter would be long. So we have the English translation for you on the seat should you wish to follow it, given that it will be sung in Gaelic. So over to you, Alan. Thank you very much for that, Alan. Alan has literally just learned that, so that was a supreme performance. Brilliant, thank you.
We're waiting for him today.
It would be appropriate that James should read one of his stories from the 365 collection. James wrote a new story every day for a year, exactly 365 words long, exploring a wide range of ideas, topics, tales and themes. Unlike Will, he responds creatively to ideas that inspire and crafts something new for others to enjoy and appreciate. This tale, Luggy, a bit like Will's work, is half a found object in the form of the folk tale about a fisherman, Luggy, fishing for cooked fish at sea and on land, and who was apparently burnt for being a witch. The other half invention by James comes at the end, prescient indeed as it may well be. So, I'll read the story for you. There was a fisherman in Shetland called Luggy who went to sea with his companions in a long, narrow boat with a mast and a sail. They might be out for days at a time if the fish were not present. Sometimes a terrible hunger would come on them. Luggy had a basket in which he kept a line with a wee lead weight on it. And when they were starving and not a fish was to be had in the whole wide ocean, he would drop this line over the stern of the boat and let it out to its full extent. When he pulled it in, there would be a cod or a plaice, freshly grilled and steaming, on the end of the line. He would unhook the fish and share it with his mates. None of them knew how the fish came to be cooked like that, and they did not care to ask. They were famished and the smell was irresistible. Luggy had another trick he liked to play in stormy weather, when he couldn't go out to sea. His house was on the edge of a moor, and he would go to a place where there was a deep, dark hole in the peat, and he let his line down through it, and pulled up a smoked trout or salmon, and take it back to his wife. She preferred a rabbit, but didn't complain. Apart from anything else, there were no pans to clean. This all happened a long time ago. Nobody would believe you if you told such a story nowadays. But back then, people were ignorant and believed all kinds of nonsense. Had Luggy told them, however, that there were billions of gallons of oil at the bottom of the same sea he fished, and that the oil could be brought to the surface and used for cooking, heating, manufacturing, powering vehicles, and many other purposes, they'd have shaken their heads at him. No, no. Especially if he'd gone on to explain that it could all be used up in a lifetime, every last drop. Aye, that'll be right. they'd have said, "Fetch us another fish supper." Great words from James there. It's a great book, well worth picking up if you haven't already copied. So moving on, looking at some of the Arctic exploration and whaling kind of themes in Will's work. The whaling industry and polar exploration has informed a large part of Will's art, and over his life he's gathered a fascinating collection of related artefacts, scrimshaw, Inuit carvings, ships in bottles and other nautical relics. Baleen, whale bones and other seaborne objects are to be found woven into such breathtaking works as Leviathan Elegy and Logbook 1 Polar Voyage, all in the exhibition. Many of the great whaling boats were based in Dundee, but the skippers would stop in Orkney and Shetland to enlist local crew, who were particularly skilled in the harsh polar maritime environment. Fiddles and mandolins would be taken on board these boats, like the Ballina and the Octave, and would provide some light musical relief from the drudgery of whaling. Indeed, Allan's father, was a whaler before the Second War, sailing for South Georgia from the port of Leith. In true Gaelic fashion, Allan and his brothers still carry the mining whaler. Allan told me recently that he received a letter many years ago from a fellow in Canada asking if he was one of the whalers. And it was spelled W-A-I-L-E-R-S. Allan declines to acknowledge any Jamaican reggae roots in his family. So, tunes such as these three great Shetlandic melodies we're about to play, Da Full Rigged Ship, Da New Rigged Ship, and Down and Up the Bow are still remembered and played today. The title of the last tune refers to the action of keeping a boat in position at a buoy, or against wind and tide by opening the oars. works of the great Gaelic poet Allan MacDonald have been right at the heart of Will Maclean's earliest artistic responses. Seminal works like Sabbath of the Dead, Memorial for a Clearance Village, and Window Visitation to South Uist, all downstairs, are particularly memorable and powerful visual commentaries on the devastating effects of the Highland clearances. Indeed, so impressed was Allan MacDonald by the artist's work that he wrote the foreword to the artist's biography, Symbols of Survival, written in 1992 by acclaimed art historian Duncan Macmillan. Hallaig is acknowledged as Allan MacDonald's greatest work, so it's fitting here to hear at least some of the works, the poetry now. I'll read the translated version here, actually done by the Nobel laureate Seamus Heaney. Time the deer is in Hallaig Wood. There's a board nailed across the window. I look through to see the west. And my love is a birch forever by Hallaig stream at her trust. Between Edinburgh and Milk Hollow, somewhere around Ballachur, a flickering birch, a hazel, a trim, straight sapling rowan. In Scrapiddle, where my people hail from, the seed and breed of Hector Moore and Norman by the banks of the stream are a wood. Tonight the pine cocks crowing on Crocht and Ra, there are there above, and the trees standing tall in moonlight, they are not the wood I love. I will wait for the birches to move, the wood to come up past the cairn, until it has veiled the mountain, down from Bain na Lichte in shade. If it doesn't, I'll go to Hallaig, to the Sabbath of the Dead, down to where each departed generation is gathered. Hallaig is where they survived, all the Macleans and Macleods who were there in the time of Gaelic Hallam, the dead and seen alive. So that's sorry. We're going to look at a theme of emigration, which is a major theme in Scottish history, which has been a recurring and pertinent theme for Will Maclean. Many of his direct Highland ancestors in Coyach and Skye left for foreign shores, most never to return. The harsh and unforgiving land, the draconian land ownership, the lack of money and opportunities all conspired to gut the Highlands of much of its young lifeblood in the 19th century. Indeed, Maclean has presented new works in a recent exhibition at the Fine Arts Society here in Edinburgh, entitled Diaspora. These marvellous works looked closely at 6 of Will's family antecedents who had departed from Scotland, and the lives of each are illustrated with a box construction, a collage and a pencil drawing. Some of these are here in the exhibition. One of these relations was a young Murdo Macleod of Springland in Poblain, granduncle to Will and myself. Murdo left for South Africa in 1901 to seek his fortune. In a remarkable surviving set of letters sent home, Murdo tells of his time there, first in Cape Town, where he comments on hearing the old Gaelic songs being sung, and then onwards up country into the Boer War, where he enlisted in an irregular unit, Scots Railway Guards, working to protect the railway lines at the Kimberley Down lines. On the 25th of January 1902, he was shot dead by a Boer patrol at Neil's farm, Devondale. Subsequent black-edged letters of condolence that survived kind of done little to ease the pain of the death of a young son, aged 25. It's a sad microcosm of the endless loss of young Highlanders to relentless imperialism, which left the family in Coyach in complete despair. His old mother Mary outlived 6 of her 9 children, all of whom were the artist's antecedents. However, over a century later, Will created a superb box construction entitled Letters from Kimberley as a memorial to this white man, which now hangs in the family home in Springland. Within the artwork, Will has woven imagery of 3 silk silver leaves sent home by young Murdo to his mother, sending off from Cape Town, and a faint single surviving photo of a young soldier in uniform. So, here we're going to play, to cheer us up, some of the great Pershtabale tunes from the Gaelic tradition of mouth music, which kept the ancient music alive in the Highland communities after the last Jacobite uprising when clapping was prescribed. They couldn't keep the music down though, and I like to think that Murdo would have recognised these tunes after all this time. So we're going to play Alan Big. What else, Alan?
You want me to tell?
Yes.
Because you I know.
You'll know.
Saul, Ian Houston, and then Ease knows the common cattle. You tell me where you're sleeping, in other words. Morik Janich and Morik, Reine Vanish. Morik made the wedding.
Okay. Okay, moving on. One of the big themes is clearance and eviction and the movement of people. And we're going to look at the Highland clearances briefly, and specifically eviction in Coya. This centres on a poem, Oran Baden Tarbert, another poem by Will Macleod, poem Bard. It refers to the Baden Tarbert clearances of the early 19th century, when the indigenous people living there, including Will and my great-grandparents, were forcibly cleared off the land by the landowners and shifted to the island of Tannaramore, the largest of the Summer Isles. They eventually returned to the mainland sometime in the 1840s to open up barren moorland to create the township of Polbane with its rough crofts and rude stone houses. As my father, Roddy Macleod, said, Oran Baden Tarbert, the Baden Tarbert song, is a graphic illustration of the effects of the clearances. Indeed, my own great-grandfather, Murdo Macleod, and his young family were one of those families evicted from Baden Tarbert to Tanna. The inability to make even a paltry living from harsh ground frequently led to tenants being perpetually indebted to the landlord. The potential gain from sheep breeding far outweighed the revenue from these tenants, and this often resulted in the replacement with sheep farms, as was the case in Baden Tarbert in 1842. And that ground is still deserted. There's nothing there, except the remains, the rig, the ruined houses. So I'm going to ask Allan to give the poem, and you've got a translation, I think, in front of you. So, thank you.
I guess about the forum, but not out of the melody has been lost. Yeah, the melody of it. Maar vallig en de factoren is een duine moord. Ook gaat een habel voor a ask van die is van elm. Han eich kun juach gemmer aan, le kunne klas na gor. Ja neran wek op naharichen, han eich een leed ach braak. Zie het rein in eker oor, gach rein is stra or vooi. Goa die hier ges een flatachsje, ges straantje toe begoin. A wir yn syffarmach, a tacer coj yn dloi. Y giri yn neren asha gwyn, ha'i hors le ffordd nes dwoen. Ys ym y tynnu tachbi, sy'n gwch fferan hors fwach. Begin fallad ag Africa, sy'n America ar chwan. O falwch yn y ffactoren, rhain biawn yn rhain o crwy. A fast die week rein fuddig ging, is skidden toe de goor. Is hier de haan hier raaggerig, gach tjoeg, is hier op de waan. Hoe had ik hier gach treden bloeg, een genegeeg, len kutswaan. Sna kahef, bij het kluwtjig, naam kokkelige rank, voor Waterloo's corona, moeig, van de zin. Is een beetje oorlog, perstig, pierig, heichel vaas. Trolle zal traaggerig, karnig, waan ilk, agus vaag. Gaan eichken juach keurig en medig, en laat. Is keeper eerlijk, stoelig, le koe, en gehaald. Sjouwer patten therapert, hij is een goedaan. Waar ooreken en kruchtjeren, de tijden schisker bla. Waar een feien kokkerig uier, is troger och a haar. Gaan eich kun juw ach loget, is kloonef de vaas.
Thank you, Alan. That's terrific to hear. So the penultimate theme that I wanted to look at was the land grades, actually. Towards the end of the 20th century, several townships in Lewis moved to commemorate a series of land raids that occurred in the 19th century when local people were denied access to ancestral ground. A later land raid occurred when veterans from World War I returned from the trenches to find themselves denied access to their lands in Balal. A remarkable series of monuments were designed by Will Maclean, often in collaboration with his wife Marion Lehman, a hugely accomplished artist in her own right, and member of the Royal Scottish Academy, and local master stonemason John Crawford. These monuments have given the communities of Ballallan, Gresh, Agnish and Reith a focus for the ongoing remembrance of the achievements of their forebears and will mark the landscape in perpetuity. As you will see in the exhibition, there are a series of descriptive panels showing the background stories and extensive visual archive material pertaining to the commemorative monuments that were created. Also, Will and Marion and Royal Scottish Academy past President Arthur Watson were at the forefront of the team who designed and implemented the build of the poignant monument commemorating the wreck of the troopship Islay at Hogmanay in 1918, with the loss of 208 returning World War I servicemen. It overlooks the beasts of Holm, the jagged rocks on which the Islay are foundered within sight of Stornoway. The memorial was inaugurated in 218 to great acclaim in the presence of Prince Charles and Nicola Sturgeon. And actually, as a coda to this, Will and Marion are now actively involved in a similar memorial project up in Ahillibui, Lord Coinach, which aims to mark the resistance to evictions in Coinach in the mid-19th century. This is particularly exciting as it will be the first major artwork by Maclean and Leven in Will's home area of Coinach. When Will was assembling the material for the show, I often visited his studio in Taport, and on one occasion found him framing up various source materials, sketches, plans, maps, designs, photos, all relevant to the monuments. I actually spotted a tune amongst the material for the Ballallan cairn, which it turned out Will had not actually heard. It was composed by a local musician, Ian Crichton, a fine five-row button accordionist, originally from Lower Babel on the Eye Peninsula of Lewis. And it commemorates the occasion in 1994 of the official unveiling of the Park Cairn in Ballallan. So I learnt it, and I added two parts, and it's here. I'm going to play it. Yeah, it's a good tune, that. Right, we come to the end. All sorts of elements of the natural world of the Highlands are inextricably woven into many of Will's works. A myriad of naturalistic ideas inform his art. He observes that the ringneck herring fishermen could tell what type of fish were shoaling by the angle of the gannet's belly. He marvels that the people of St Kilda could rely almost entirely on seabirds for sustenance. He investigates the use by crofters of a perforated scallop shell to skim cream off milk. He admires the ocean-going birds like the fulmar, the gannet, or the petrel, which would give companionship to sailors, anchorites, or wanderers. And bird skulls, feathers, bones, found objects, beachcomb wood, seaweed, boat wrecks, flotsam sought out in junkyards and antique shops, all may be cast, moulded, incorporated, and utilised in many of the artist's works. So I hope this has been an enjoyable reflection of the masterworks of the artist of the Highlands, Will Maclean. And we're going to leave you with a selection of great pipe jigs, all named for birds typically found in the Highlands: the duck, the curlew, and the seagull. So many thanks to John and Allan here, and also our apologies from James. So we'll give you the final set of tunes. Now, don't rush away, because You don't think that my esteemed cousin could sit through all that and get away with it. And he is master of the fabulous tromb, as is Allan. So we're going to get Will up, and he's going to play a tune with us. And then we'll let you get away and dash off to the fringe or whatever. So, Will Maclean, ladies and gentlemen.
I'd just like to thank you very much for your, not only for your presentation, but for standing in so ably and at the last minute for tunes. Thank you very much indeed. That's okay. I must say I'm terrified and proud in equal measure to have my first public performance of trump with the greatest trump player in Scotland.
Okay, that means to know you need to be heard, you know.
It feels like for me, it's
So anyway, we're going to play. Will sent me 3 files, I don't know, sometime during lockdown, of himself playing the trump. Not doing his fabulous artwork, because he's not interested in that. He's far more interested in the trump. And has books on it, and has a great collection, and is a great admirer of Allan. So he sent me these tunes. Brochan Long, the great Gaelic song, Lumpy Porridge. You use lumpy porridge in your artwork, don't you?
Yeah, that's what they say. That's what they say it looks like.
And then the famous Kate Dalrymple, the beginning of Take the Floor, which everybody's heard from 1950 onwards. And then Miss MacLeod of Rossi, yeah? So, you boys take it away?
What's the one again?
Rock and roll.